Well, hello, Dr. Shola. I am so glad that we're on here on today again. All right. I am excited about this podcast, Open and Unashamed. We've had an opportunity to really dive in into some places, restoration, regrets, time, traveling in moments of experiences. And so I just wanted to say I welcome you again on today. Dr. Shola is my co-host here on today. And we're going to just celebrate her on today. How are you, Dr. Shola?
I'm doing great. I'm happy, I'm healthy. The sun is coming in, even though it's cold. So and I'm happy and excited to talk to you. Always. I mean, offline, online, in person. I'm always happy to talk to you and be in your presence and share insights. So again, I know I know that this is our thing that we're doing together, but honestly, beyond that, I'm just happy to be talking to you and having conversations with you, having these high-level conversations, deep spiritual conversations that aren't spirit only, conversations of mind and everything that we do together. So yes, I'm excited to be here as always.
Wow. Wow. I appreciate you. And I just love this lady. And I do appreciate her as we move forward with this podcast. We want to make sure that our audience prayerfully is getting something, learning something, seeds dropping, right? We're
Yes.
experts in some areas. We have life experiences that we're sharing on here also. And so on today, I just want to celebrate my sister. We know that we are celebrated every day as African Americans, as Blacks. And so I just wanted to make sure today, the last day of February, that we also celebrate you, what you're doing, your books, your podcast, everything that you're doing. And so we're going to try to touch on a little bit of that today. So I want to read short bio of Dr. Shola. Okay. And I'm reading that from her book that we're going to discuss today. All right. It says that Dr. Shola Ezekoli is a board certified physician, certified life coach, business consultant, best-selling author, and international public speaker. She helps other physicians as well as high achieving professional women and stressed and burned out in their lives so that they can enjoy the lives that they work so hard to build. When she isn't speaking, coaching, or writing, she loves to dance or watch movies with her family. Listen, I didn't know that you love to dance. I think you shared that with me about you love to dance, but I am so excited to have you here on today. And I just want to, kick it off with you and just ask you, your book today that we will be discussing is called Free to Be. Free to Be.
Yes.
And so when you think about that, all the other episodes that we've had about restoration, okay, we're going to just kind of kick it off and just kind of tie it into that first. And then I want to hear your story about where the book came from or where his authorship come from. So I'm just going to turn it over to you right now. Thank you.
Okay. Where do I start? It's funny when people say, "What's your story?" I usually look at them like a deer trapped in the headlights, like, which one? But long story short, or short story long, I'm like I said in the bio, I'm a doctor, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and a whole bunch of different hats that I wear. And I'm just going to start with this book and walk backwards because I feel like both inside of and outside of faith circles, many women are not free to be. Many women are not free to be. We are either living according to the expectations of others, many unrealistic, living according to weird societal expectations or archaic societal expectations, sometimes living according to traditions that no longer, or honestly, maybe never have served us or even served the kingdom of God, and just living under all these fake constraints. But how about if we were free to be? What would that look like? If we were just free to be. I'm not saying free to do wild things necessarily, or I'm not even talking about going bungee jumping. I'm not talking about wild adventures. I'm not talking about doing anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. How about if we were just free to be? If we were free to choose the occupation of our own choosing, or free to pick the life partner that we really want, or free to just, you know what? I want to get up in the morning and watch Netflix for 1 hour. Do you know that there's so many women that even they feel guilty about taking rest, about resting. Oh, I just sat there and watched Netflix. I feel so guilty. Guilty for what? Did you steal the Netflix? No. Did you? What was it you were doing that was so wrong? That every single thing that you think of doing that just happens to be for yourself you're racked with guilt. This is where free to be came from.
That's good.
And if you look through the book, you'll realize that every title starts with free to be. So it's free to be new, from free to be new, free to be spiritual, free to be confident, free, and at the chapter 12 is titled Free to Be You.
Yes.
In so many ways, we shortchange ourselves by not being ourselves. And there are many reasons for this. We don't have self-trust. We've lived according to these expectations for so long. Sometimes we've even come to the point where these expectations, we've unconsciously just put them on ourselves. And we're just living. I just made a post on Facebook. I said, it's my opinion that people don't have self-trust, hence running around for approval from all and sundry. You know, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. And sometimes I see these questions that don't make sense. Oh, I want to do blah, blah, blah. What do you all think? I'm like, you don't know us. Why is what we all think now going to be the thing? And I understand that sometimes, yes, you have to ask for counsel. You have to ask for approval, asking for opinions. But why is what we all think going to be the biggest driver of your decision? What you think. I heard somebody say something which is funny. His name is Shola King, and he's a comedian. And he said something. He said, in his typical voice, why you gotta act like a lady and think like a man? How about you just think?
Right. Instead of, why does it have to be compared to thinking like a man?
Exactly. How about we just sit down and go into our own minds? How about we develop self-trust? How about we develop true freedom to be ourselves within ourselves, the freedom that God gives? Because Jesus died for our liberty from sin, from sickness, etc., but also liberty in our minds and spirits and souls, so that we're not beholden to the expectations of all and sundry, just to be able to breathe and walk around.
I am just excited. You better go ahead over here. I'm trying to make sure I don't be moaning and groaning so we can record properly over here. But I'm just excited because I was reading John 8:36 that said, when the Son sets you free, the Son meaning Jesus, you are free indeed.
Yep.
Free indeed.
Yep.
And so I want to go back to, you made a statement about, why do we, and I wrote down, why do we put it on ourselves, like this guilt, this shame? Why do we take it on when we make some decisions? And they can be these small decisions to some of us, major to someone else, right?
Yes.
So I'm not minimizing what people may feel, their life experiences. Indeed. But just being able to, like you said, look at Netflix and then say, hey, I binge watch and I really feel guilty because there's some things I should be doing around the house, or I could be doing around the house. We call those should bugs. Those bugs force us to live, in the past.
Yes.
And they are that guilt. They are that shame. And so in the midst of having these bugs that keep talking to us in our ears, we literally don't know how to relax, like you were saying. As a parent, and real quick story, I remember praying and asking God to send me help and support for my son, or with my son. And the weekend he did it. My son was about 5. He said, you're going to trust people to keep them, and I'm going to give you this weekend. And they came and got him. I sat there. I had no clue what to do with myself. Literally. And the Lord said to me, the Holy Spirit said, could you just sit here and rest? Could you just be?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be pulled in all directions and out here, and you think it's a thing you think it's serving me, because you're doing all of these things. That's busy work,
Yes.
Alicia. That's busy work. So I love how you just came out through the door saying, hey, can we just be free? So when you think about this podcast, open and unashamed, how do you correlate that? Share with me your thoughts on that.
So these are my thoughts on that. When we are free to be, we can be open and unashamed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
Mm-hmm.
that's the all tied up in a bowl version.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, I have a similar story. We revolving around a child, dropped off our child one day, and then we got home. My husband and I were sitting and just staring at each other like statues. Like, our baby is gone. What do we do? And then, she's not here. Go and maybe interact with some other human beings. Maybe go out for dinner. I don't know. Do something. And then we went out to see some of our friends, and it's very real.
It's real.
Yeah, but back to
Mm-hmm.
what I was saying about being free to be and open and unashamed, they're the same. They're I would say the different sides of the same coin.
Okay.
Because when you're open and unashamed and free to be, you're free to really explore. You're free to, remember we talked about reflection,
Yes.
open and unashamed. It starts with reflection and facing yourself. If you want to be free to be, you have to face yourself. You have to say, oh, what are these traditions and expectations that I've just been living under that I don't have to live under, that I actually don't have to for want of a better word, enslave myself to. When I started as a resident a few years back, so we had a baby. At the time, didn't have reliable childcare. And so I would come home from residency, probably like sometimes 6, 7, and then I would go to the kitchen and start cooking, and then, try to, until my husband said to me one day, he was like, no, don't do this, please. Said, I'm a grown man. If I want to eat something, I will find what to eat. Don't feel like you're going to, I'm going home to cook for my husband. He said, no. He said, go and sit. He said, when you come home, go and sit down. He said, go and sit down for at least 30 minutes before you even enter that kitchen. He's like, please. I'm sure his mom was like, please, I don't want anybody to come and tell me that I'm turning their daughter into a housewife or whatever. He's like, please. He literally, it was almost like he was pleading. He was like, please, just go and sit down. Oh, you're cooking for me? No. Yeah, right. Just go. And that was, honestly, that was part of my liberation. I usually joke about it and say, oh, he created a monster, because now if we both come home, each of us look like, what are we going to eat tonight? But he freed me of that mental obligation of, oh, as a woman, you have to come home and run straight to the kitchen. As time evolved, I started to work into my life ways not to do that. So we had someone, would cook and all of that. And when we came in, we both had food. But him forcing me to think out of that box really made me realize, like, there are different ways to be. You don't have to be this same thing because somebody has told you, oh, this is how to be a woman. And this was the same thing with my evolution about house cleaning. Now, it's not like I clean my house. I mean, I can clean. But again, it was one day I was like scrubbing, and I had a 4-year-old. I was like, hey, come and scrub these baseboards with our tiny hands. And I'm looking, I'm like, I have one day off a week, one toddler and one baby that I should spend time with. Instead of me to take these kids to the park, I'm scrubbing baseboards. You know what? Let's figure out how we can pay someone to do this so we don't have to scrub baseboards. And every time I told somebody that I had a nanny and I had a cleaner, they were like, oh, you're so rich. I wasn't rich. I wasn't rich. And they're here. So now here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying take all your money and break the bank.
Gotcha.
I'm saying sit down about where in your life you're just meeting unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
And yourself to think of a different way of doing things that's going to make your own quality of life better.
Quality, so that we can have longevity of life. So that we can have longevity of life, a healthy life. Because you don't
Yes.
want to live till you're 100 and you barely can move around and get around. Now, some
Yes.
people may prefer that, but if I had a choice to have healthy longevity of life, then that's what I would go for. And so
Yes.
learning to, you said, hey, I'm not wearing masks. I don't want to be fake. That's one of the conferences that we do called All of Woman. But I wanted to share this with you, and I want to get your input. It says free to be. So be means to exist in actuality, to have
Mm.
life and reality, to
Mm.
occupy a certain position, a certain time, or a certain space, to live in the reality, in the real moment, in the present moment, for some
Yes.
who would say, right? So if I can just be, like, God is so sovereign that he
Yes.
just be. There's
Yes.
nothing else you can do with his presence but bow down to him,
Yeah.
because he comes in so big. And I'm not comparing us to God. My reason for saying it is, if we could just be,
Be.
just walk in the room and just be. So I'm
Yes.
not looking in a corner and saying, oh my God, I wonder what they're thinking about me. Oh my
Yes.
God, what are they thinking about my shoes I have on?
Oh.
What my outfit, what I have on? Oh
Oh.
my God, what are they thinking about
Oh.
my hair? I went to church
Oh.
last night. I washed this hair, I pulled it out, twist, and
Yes.
my hair was like this. And I come into church and they're looking at me saying, Sister Alicia, oh, what did you do with your hair? I'm just being.
Yeah.
Just I just want to be. It needed some air. I didn't
Exactly.
have to call anybody and ask
Oh.
them, how can I wear my hair? I didn't shoot
Oh.
a Facebook page and say, what do you all think about these hairstyles? And that's no disrespect to the folk who need content and
Yeah.
creating content, right? But
Yes.
some things is just not you all's business.
Yes.
Some stuff I don't need your advice on. I got a
Yeah.
God that I can go to.
Exactly. I've
Okay.
got God and I've got myself.
That's it. I have the direction of, who he made me to be, who I
Be.
am. And so be, right? Let's get back to your book, Be. I wanted
Yes.
to say that this part of existing, one of the other things, the other definition says be to equal in identity and have a specified significance, a specified significance. So when you hear that I can just be, I have my own identity, equal identity.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
What that means to me is not being afraid to stand out from the crowd and not being afraid to do the unconventional.
Mm.
Because if you're just following the crowd, think about it. Like you're not different, you're not differentiated at all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And to that point, there are so many people who are deathly afraid of doing the unconventional because they're not free to be.
Mm.
There's a lot of shame in there about doing something different. Like everyone's doing this. If I do that, then imagine consequence sometimes, because a lot of these consequences are imagined.
Ah.
So that tells me that that fear of the
Mm.
unconventional will actually prevent you from being free to be. And I have a little story. When my children did not go to preschool, daycare, or anything. The first time they left home to go anywhere was when they were in kindergarten. Apparently, to a lot of people, that is strange. I did not think of it as strange. I was like, these are my children. This is my family. This is what's going to work for us. It didn't even occur to me to start asking people, oh, so what daycare, what? I was like, no, they can go to school at 5. They have someone to look after them at home. We have books. I can teach them. Their dad can teach them. It doesn't take much to teach a 2 or 3-year-old ABCs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now, here they are at the age of 5. They know their name, full names, address, parents' phone numbers, 2 times table, 5 times table. They're reading chapter books at the age of 5.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now, so again, people would meet me. This happened with both my kids. When these kids were 3 and 4, people are saying, oh, so where does she go today? Where does she go to preschool? I'm like, there's no preschool. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And I'm like, well, no. And then people would be like, people who have the preschool kids are like, "Oh, aren't you surprised about, so what's going to happen to our social development?"
Right.
Now, here is their kid standing in the corner, being afraid, just standing, watching room. And my kid, honestly, I kid you not, this actually happened. My kid, my 3-year-old is going from person to person saying, hello, hi, like a politician. And I'm like, I said, look at that. I said, her social development is not a problem. But people didn't get it. They just felt, oh, you have to send your kids to preschool. That's what you do. I was like, well, actually, that doesn't work for my family. It was just this thing. The message I was getting was like, no, that's what you do. But I'm like, it doesn't work for my family. That's what you do. No, that is not what I do.
Yes.
So now, here we are. We cannot afford, if we're going to be anything in life, if we're going to be open and unashamed, if we're going to be free to be and live the lives God wants us to live, we cannot continue to be scared of anything that's not conventional, because who defines convention? And anyway, it was one person that came along and decided, oh, this is going to be the thing. Why does it have to be the thing? I have to eat cereal for breakfast. I have to eat eggs for breakfast. Why? Why can't I eat asparagus and meat?
Yeah.
Like, why? It's still food, and my stomach doesn't know the difference. There are some people who define breakfast as a particular set of foods. I'm like, it doesn't have to be. And they look at me like,
doesn't have to be. I had eggs and broccoli and carrot medley this morning, and cauliflower. I added a vegetable to my eggs, and I kept it moving.
It's food.
It's food, and it was good to me, and it was a healthy protein with vegetables.
That was delicious.
It was delicious. I love just being me.
Exactly.
Being me. I don't have to. I've been eating dinner for breakfast so that I can work it off during the day, and eating something very light in the evening. This thing about being me. I just want to add on to what you shared about the conventional and non-conventional. Well, it was conventional for our parents to actually keep the kids at home until they were 5 years old. They actually, took care of us, grandma and everybody else who was in the household, took care of the children. We didn't go to school until we were, 5 years old. Some may have went to kindergarten, or some went at 5 years old, 6 years old. It's our day and age when I came along with my son. People, because guess what? People out working. We were quick to, okay, who's going to keep our kids? Oh no, this may be the best thing to do. And then, like you said, oh no, this will help their social skills, or this would help, this and that. For whatever reason that people gave us and we bought into it, we made it, right? Like it was literally the law. And it's not you have opportunity to change this thing. You have to find out what works for you and your family and your children. And so I'm glad to hear you say that. No, I stood on this. When I made the decision to send my son to daycare at 4, I did that because of the type of job that I had. Single parent, raising him. And I was like, okay, but I was able to go to my job and say, hey, I need to leave at 5. And they were like, they're not going to let you leave at 5. Oh, yes, they did. God was a God of mercy and a God of favor. And every job that I worked, he allowed me to work with my schedule and get my son on time, that he didn't wait after school waiting, where's his mom at, and then having trust issues that he can't trust me, right? It worked for me. But guess what? It didn't work for some of my family members, because some of them were like, why are you sending them to school so early? So it's, it's the flip sides of the story, but to be free to be,
and
allows me to make some decisions.
Exactly. And to your point about work, the reason we kept our kids at home was because we're both in residency. There is no coming home at 5. So we needed somebody to be in our house to give our kids routine and structure.
Yes.
It was like, oh, we can't do this because the daycares will be calling you at, like, we work overnight. So what's going to happen to our kid?
Absolutely.
My kids. Yeah. So, to your point, what worked for, this is what worked for you, your family, having to do that. And those are the things we have to consider rather than what does everybody think.
Yes. I appreciate this time. I want to hear just a little bit more before we end this this episode. I want to know, because it's not your only book. This is not the
No.
only thing that you do. So I want to hear a little bit more about your other books. You said, hey, I don't, when people ask, where do you start at? I want to know where you started when you were writing, about poetry. I know that you used to write poetry,
Yes.
and maybe you
Yep, I
still
did.
write poetry.
Mhm.
So that's what I want to hear a few minutes of about how did you start doing this? And then now, how it has affected and built your life, your promises, your dreams, your goals,
Yes.
because of what you started doing with writing. What did it do for you? So I want to hear a little bit more
Oh
about
my
that.
goodness. My writing journey is like the most interesting part of my life because I started writing when I was 5 years old.
Mm.
I would write poems, stories, songs, make up songs, and I would writing and composing, pretty much.
Oh,
Like
wow.
write the composing the tune, and you just sang with your little friends and moved on. The first time I wrote a full story was an adventure story. I was 11. But it was not published and it's been lost to the sands of time. So I've always written. When I was in medical school, I used to write for, the boards. You would write these written articles and stick them on the boards, and then people would come and read. And I had this pen name. And then I remember when my pen was revealed who was, and they're like, oh, you're Slash? Like, oh my goodness, that's such good work. And as time went on, I just continued to write. And the first time I decided to write and publish a book, it was a devotional. It was inspired by, there were some devotionals in our church on various topics. So I decided to write one on praise and worship. And the story of this devotion is actually very interesting because at that time I was going through kind of a depressive episode in residency, and I literally wrote my way out of depression with this book.
Jesus.
And writing now became my outlet, my thing, continue to sort of move that forward. After this came a poetry book, then a children's book. And then I wrote 2 books with my husband on marriage, which are currently out of print. But I wrote a book for physicians when I launched my physician brand. And finally, in 2022, I wrote this book for women. I am currently writing a devotional for my faith-based program. And the devotion is called Illumina, which, wherever you're seeing this is based on this concept of Christ-centered wisdom. And so I'm currently working on that. Actually, I just finished working that devotional and I submitted it to YouVersion. So I'm excited about that. So my 8th book is actually in process. And, as time goes by, it's going to be in print and all of that. And so that's my journey. But in addition to that, I also help people write and self-publish their own books. And I've helped another 25 people get their own books out there. And so these are people who, without me, they wouldn't have a book. It would just be a dream because I'm able to take people through a process of writing a book that doesn't take them away from their daily lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's
I love that.
My writing in a nutshell. I've written a lot more than these books. I've written for blogs. I've written for, I write, Facebook posts. I think if I put together all my Facebook posts, it's going to be probably 50 volumes.
Wow.
I write different things. I write a lot. Very prolific writer. If you go to my websites, I'm the one who's written all the sales pages for those.
Gotcha.
I enjoy writing. I write the way most people breathe.
You better come on. I write the way most people breathe. Okay. All right. I didn't hear you mention Balance with Dr. Shola. That's one of your other businesses?
Yes, that's sort of my umbrella business under which everything is under. So Balance with Dr. Shola has produced the Physician Heal Yourself brand, has produced the Empowered Womanhood brand, has produced the Illumina brand, which is my faith-based Christ-centered wisdom brand. And I'm just so excited to, to see what else is coming down the pipe in the future.
Woo! All right. Well, look, I'm over here as your cheerleader, as your audience, clapping, saying I am excited about knowing my friend, Dr. Shola. I am excited. We will definitely have this on the podcast where you can find her book. Would you like to share where we can find your book as well?
Yes, the book is currently it's available on Amazon. So the easiest thing is to go to Amazon and pick up a copy.
Okay. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate you. Any last minute words for our audience that may be listening about Free to Be Me, regardless if they are male, female, or any age? Is there a last word of wisdom that you can give us today?
Yes, there is. And it's this. The more you are, the more successful you will be.
Mhm.
You have to be yourself, because it's better to be your original self than to be a fake copy of someone else. We all need to learn to be a voice and not an echo.
Mm. Woo. All right, my dear. Well, I appreciate that and I love it. Okay. And we're going to sign off. And to the audience that's listening to us, we thank you so much. We pray that if you're not being you, that you begin to be free to be you, and that you would pick up Dr. Shola's book as well. So God bless you, and we'll see you the next episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my dear.